Hello students, in this lecture we will be understanding different types of authentication methods. So in the last lecture we have discussed the different authentication ways, that is Windows, Forms authentication, Passport authentication. So we'll discuss each one of them in detail. First one is Windows authentication. If you select Windows authentication for your ASP.NET application, you have to configure authentication within IIS, as IIS is the first level of authentication. This is because IIS provides you Windows authentication. So IIS gives you four different choices to select the which one authentication you want to give. First one is anonymous, second is basic, third is digest, and fourth is Windows integrated. So if you select authentication, anonymous means that IIS is not going to perform any authentication here. It is going to give anyone is allowed to access this ASP.NET application. Second one is basic authentication. If you select basic authentication, users must provide a Windows username and password to connect. However, this information is sent over the network in the clear text, which makes basic authentication very much insecure over the network. Third one is digest authentication. If you select digest authentication, users must still provide a Windows username and password to connect. However, this password is hashed before it is sent across the network. The fourth one is Windows integrated authentication. So if you select Windows integrated authentication, passwords never come across the network. Users must still have a username and password they need to enter, but the application uses either the Kerberos or challenge response protocol to authenticate the user. This Kerberos is a network authentication protocol. It is designed to provide strong authentication for client server applications by using secret key cryptography. Kerberos is a solution to network security problems. It provides the tools of authentication and strong cryptography over the network to help to secure information in systems across entire enterprise. Next type of authentication is passport authentication. This passport authentication lets you to use your Microsoft Passport service to authenticate the users of the application. If your users have already signed up with Passport and you configure the authentication mode of application to be passport authentication, all the users are duties are offloaded to Passport servers only. So basically in the last video lecture we have already discussed that if you are making the changes in web.config file, you are taking authentication mode as passport, it will be configured with the same. Passport uses an encrypted cookie mechanism to indicate authenticated users. So if you have already signed up there, then the same username and password will be taken. Otherwise, you will be redirected to the same passport, that particular site where you have to enter your credentials. To use this passport authentication, you have to download Passport Software Development Kit, which is SDK, and install it on your server. This SDK can be found on this particular link. So you need to install it on your server. The last authentication method here is forms authentication. This forms authentication is used if you want to customize, if you want to create the authentication method according to your particular application. This is basically a custom logic you are creating. So there are a number of steps that if you are creating any web form to take the user credentials, whenever the user is requesting a page for the application, ASP.NET checks for the presence of a special cookie. Now, what this cookie is, it is a small bit of text that is used to store user specific information. This information can be read by the web application, whenever user is visiting the site. When a user requests for a web page, web server sends not just the web page but also the cookie containing the date and the time. So if that cookie is present, ASP.NET assumes the user is authenticated and processes the request. If this cookie is not present, then ASP.NET redirects the user to a particular same web page and you have to enter your credentials there, and again the cookie is stored. So when you carry out whatever this type of authentication, it basically checks in your form. So if the user is authenticated, you have to set a particular property so that all the requests could be handled by that cookie itself. I hope you have understood this lecture. Thank you.